Hello, welcome to Impact Podcast. This is your host, Christian. I'm here with my co-hosts, Imani and Darren. We thank y'all for tuning in again. This is we're well into the season now. We've had some guests on here and everything like that, and I feel like everybody's enjoyed it. I mean, I've enjoyed it. I'm not sure about y'all,
It's been good.
but it's been good
Yeah,
and
it's been
everything
good.
like that. So we're well on our way in this season. So we're glad to have you back. Make sure before we get started, you subscribe to this channel, put on post notifications, like this video, and comment, I did it, because we want to make sure that you're engaging with our channel and everything like that. So we thank y'all, and make sure you follow us on Instagram at Impact Podcast Show, Impact Podcast Show. That way you can stay updated with what we're doing with all the shows. And just a reminder, I know that last week we had started a new thing. We were going to now stream the shows at 7 o'clock. So make sure y'all tune in at 7 o'clock every week, and we will be right here on your favorite podcast. And thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all want to say anything before we get started?
My name is Rebecca. I'm kidding.
So
Oh, we good, bro.
now he's in there smiling. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, but okay, y'all want to ask the icebreaker question, anything like that?
Oh yeah. Well, do one of y'all want to ask it?
Sure, I'll ask you. Okay, sorry, y'all. If you are offered to see a biblical place or event, what would you want to see?
Ooh.
I would like to see be one of those that's there after Jesus rose from the dead. I'd be like, oh my goodness, like I would just like to be there with the people that was closest to Jesus and everything like that. And it would just be a surreal moment. I think that would be one moment I would like. And then maybe outside of that, at creation, like being the first man, then I would have changed it for everybody. I would be like, we are not. I would have cut down that tree, man. I would not. I would not have.
Oh, you just gotta be like, woman, no.
Yeah, tell Adam to get his girl, right?
Yeah, but the thing about it is this: look, like, what if she would have eaten and he didn't? Then what?
It would have just been all men. Oh no, the women would have to give birth and all that, but we would just be
Y'all
able
would
to
probably-
chill at the house.
Like, exactly.
You know?
We'd be just chilling at the house. Women have
No,
to go
he
and
would
work.
be. He would have got in trouble still because he's supposed to
Oh
reign
yeah,
over her.
Yeah, he is supposed to
But
be.
it
Like,
wouldn't
you
have
was
been
not
as bad
watching
because
her.
it wouldn't have been as bad because he didn't eat of it. Like, think about it. You can't control where she goes all day. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're on the other side of the garden and she's over there eating
God
apples.
destroyed her and created a new woman.
Yo,
be something like
that
that.
may have happened. I don't
That's
know.
probably more along
Lord
the
forgive
lines
me.
of
Lord
that.
forgive me. I don't want to be adding and all that. You know?
Exactly.
We are not adding and taking away at all.
Yeah, but
Ooh, there's so many things. Because we talked about Joseph and stuff, I would just like to see the palaces and stuff they lived in, just to see what they look like. And the church that was built in the Old Testament is a lot of things. The Red Sea, when it was parted, that would have been crazy to see. I don't know. I just want to be there for all the miracles.
Well, for me, and when I don't say Jesus, y'all, don't make me feel bad. But I would want to walk with Paul, man. I would just want to walk with him. 'Cause I know, like I say, well, you wouldn't you want to walk with Jesus? Of course, I would want to walk with Jesus. But I just would want to be one of those proteges with Paul, the way like Timothy was, the way like Titus was. You know what I'm saying? You know, just walk with him and be like, okay, what we doing? You know, let's get these churches in order. You feel what I'm saying? Why you look like that when I said that?
because you said, I'm not gonna say Jesus, man.
Because
Oh my goodness.
Because that's like cliche. Like everybody know we all want to walk
We
with
do,
Jesus.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be pretty cool, man. I'd be like, so look, can I like help write one of the epistles or something like that? Can I like?
Can I be an editor?
Can I be an editor? Can I write my own? You'd be like, no, go stand aside over there.
Right.
Not just
yeah,
like,
like I'll hold your jacket. That's it. I just want to hold his jacket and just learn.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, but can you imagine, like, you know how adjutants like go with
yeah,
bishops and stuff?
yeah. I want to be his. I'll be his deacon, man. For real. You know what I'm
Like,
saying?
just carrying a Bible, but like he preaching in front of thousands of people, or he just standing there and then like it start out with 5 people, and then like by the end of the
People just keep
day,
on pulling up.
yeah, it's like
What are y'all doing? Get out of here. Get out of our city. And then it'll get crazy, right?
Right. And then you gotta run and you gotta protect them. Come on, I got you, Paul. Anyway, we're getting too deep into
That would be
it.
dope.
That'd be crazy. What would you at the point once people start like coming up against you and they like trying to stone you, bro? Like,
Do y'all think
At that point, it's like,
you gotta run?
I mean, I don't know. I would just have to be like, all right, what we doing?
you know, what we doing? We fighting?
That's what I'm saying. Do you think they
No.
ever try to defend
We must
themselves?
stand here and take it. Like, hold up, bro.
It's like, oh my goodness, you talking about we going to prison? Yeah.
Let's run. Like, no, we must stay here.
Like,
Oh my
oh
God.
man, Jesus again.
Yep. But yeah, that was a good icebreaker question and everything. But that leads us into our question for today, and our topic is success. And as we know, the Apostle Paul had a lot of success, and I think that's something we all want to strive to be. Someone that's successful in our faith, someone that's successful in our ministry and in life in general. So what does true success look like from a Christian perspective, and how can we align our ambitions with God's purpose for our lives?
Huge two-part question. Well, if we're going off of like just remembering Bible study, going to the end, I remember Pastor talked about that, like looking at the end result, like we'll win in the end. So, like just living our life, like how can we do all that we can to get to that end result of eternity? So that's what true success is, like getting to see the Lord and hear Him say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." Like, come on in. So that's true success. I mean, there's more to say, but I'll let y'all go ahead.
Can we mention the movie? Or you? Okay, so we watched The Forge recently, and to me, that's kind of like the true epitome of success. You feel me? In the natural, but it's kind of entwined with spiritual as well, because although he was a successful businessman, he definitely put God first. You feel me? And that's why I always try to say it's nothing wrong with being, having goals and accomplishing things on this earth, as long as it's not to the point where it's like you have no time to do God's will. You feel me? So he was able to knock out his goals, be successful in the business world, have a very successful business, $1 million business, but at the same time, he was doing God's work. You know what I mean? So when you're able to intertwine that stuff together, that's true success. You feel me? Like, I got the best of both worlds, basically.
Michael. But yeah, I agree with you there. And the thing about it, he had made his business a ministry,
Exactly.
because
man.
through it he was actually discipling people to come into their faith. And I'm not sure if y'all have seen The Forge. Many of y'all probably have. But it was about a young man that was not on the right track in life. His mom was trying to get him to come to church and everything like that. He wouldn't, because sometimes, like we've talked in the past, that you won't hear from certain people. Some people can't minister to you the way others can. But he used his business, he used his success to actually minister to this guy. So I just want to challenge each and everybody out there that be successful in what you do, because when you're successful in what you do, God will open up doors for you to minister to people. You don't always have to. In the movie, he was not going to the dude talking about, and God said you have to do. No, he was not doing it that type of thing, because you won't minister to some people that way. But your ministry is through your actions. He saw that this man actually had a business that he was really trying to do well, and that he was in good standing as far as just his employees. Everybody, they said he was the best boss that they ever had. So if you're on a job, you could be the best employee your boss has ever had, the best boss your employees ever had, or just being a good person in general, and that's how you can be successful in your ministry and everything. So I like that answer too. So
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of, like, even in the Bible, how people like Abraham, people like Job, like these people were wealthy men. You know what I'm saying? Solomon, of course, David.
Who was it Ruth's husband? No, Boaz?
Yeah,
He was
wealthy
successful,
too.
too.
Yeah, because he was wealthy because I believe he had a lot of livestock and land and stuff like that. If I'm not mistaken, yo.
yeah, and even with David, his success, like when he was going out in the fight, he was fighting, he was king. That wasn't something that where it was like he was just out preaching, doing whatever. But like that was his personal success. That didn't really do anything for God other than show his glory of God being with him. But with David, when he danced like David danced, people laughed at him. His wife even was like, "You're foolish." But he was giving glory to God because he knew that without God, he would not even be anywhere close to where he's at. So,
I have a question. So, like, in the Old Testament, y'all just named a bunch of people that had success, right? And land and all of that. And in the New Testament, we see, like, success in a different way. Like, the apostles were, like, told to leave their families and leave everything behind. And they kind of put on this lifestyle of, like, just completely dependent on God, like, for their next meal and everything. And,
Yeah, you're right about
and
that.
Paul was successful in persecuting Christians too. Like, he was successful in that, but that's not the right success. I think in the New Testament, it redefined what success was. It's not just material things. In the New Testament, it was more so of God saying, throw everything away from the earthly success and take on your success in him. And he will add on to you. He will provide for you. That's what I was saying. Like, I was just talking yesterday about sowing seeds and everything like that, and planting seeds, because if you sow seed into a business here, it's going to be okay, but what are you going to do with the people that you employ through that business? If you are like this podcast, if I just had a regular podcast and we just talked about random stuff in life, we're just talking, we're having a conversation, but that's good, but we're impacting people's lives, so we're sowing seeds, and that's going to lead to people succeeding in life, because when we plant into them spiritually, then the spirit man will live forever, and this man right here will benefit right now because you'll be blessed. And right now, don't think that you're just building for the spirit, but when you do things in Christ, he will give you the desires of your heart. But at the same time, as much as you have the desires of your heart right now, that success, that temporary success ain't gonna last. You gotta have that spiritual success.
And another thing too, we don't think of it, but if you want to twist it around to the natural as well, a fisherman make bread. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and it's not like they just out there with a real fishing. No, these dudes are like in the sea, deep sea, with the net, and you know what I'm saying? Those people make bread.
Because when it was on the ship with Jesus, they was like, Jesus, this basically don't make sense. Why are we in this part of the water? Like, we know where all the stuff was, so they have an idea of this.
And Paul was a tent maker, so think of it in this day and age. It's not like a tent, like where you outside and you just put up a tent, but think of it more so like building a house in a way. Because think of how the tents were used back then. They're like set up as like camp, like, and we're living here for a while. Like, it's a place where you could actually dwell. You feel me? So
People
I'm
like
sure
trade
that they
there
would.
and everything.
Yeah. So I'm sure that would be like a very good profit.
Like,
as
it's
far
a
as
good,
like,
it's a good career. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, they dropped everything that they had going. They was probably doing pretty well. They dropped everything they were successful in to follow Christ.
Yeah.
So that redefined what success really is. Because, oh my goodness, because Jesus, he didn't when they came and followed him, you had to drop everything. He was like, let the dead bury the dead. He's saying stuff like, just stop and follow me. And you're like, I got my whole career going. Like, imagine somebody comes up to you and like, go and quit your job, and we're gonna go across the country on foot, and then people are going to like persecute us. They're gonna like spit on us. They're gonna like hate us and stuff like that. We're gonna do some miracles. We're gonna do all this other type of stuff, but you're gonna be mad broke. But the success the success that you're gonna have is gonna last eternal, instead of the success where you can go off and drive a nice car or live in a big house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Do you know in that movie they were saying like, everybody like wants to be saved, but not everybody wants to be a disciple. And you remember when he said that to the young guy? Well, he was like ministering to him and letting him know like, the fact that you want to do like what I'm doing is a big thing, because that means it takes sacrifice. So like that's what I thought about when you were explaining that, because that's like sounds like what you're saying. If you really want to be a follower of Jesus, you gotta throw stuff to the side. It's gonna cost something. So is it okay if I ask the next question? So it says, how can we stay humble and keep our faith at the center when we achieve worldly success or significant accomplishments?
We have to realize if it's worldly success or something like that. Let's say we do get a promotion. Let's say we get a lot of money out of nowhere. Or let's say something we did that we worked hard for and we earned it. We got to realize who gave it to us. And we have to look at how David did. It's not our own doing, but we have to stay when God gives us what we want, and he promotes us to be kings and queens. We can't look down upon the kingdom and be like, everybody just like, he was talking about in one of the episodes where some kings, they have somebody and their only job is to come and make them feel better about themselves. And in life, what happens when people get successful, they surround themselves with people that's going to be there, hype up, man. They be like, you're so great. I love what you're doing. Da, da, da. They get somebody that's with them, some woman or man that's going to hype them up. The parents always hype them up, and then they lose their humility, and they forget the whole reason and why they got to where they were and who was there before. And many people forget God. People say you forget about all your boys and all your friends that was here when you was nobody, and now you're big time. But overall, they forgot about God even more than them, because they no longer pray, they no longer do everything. So how we can stay humble in this process is to remember that God is the person. He giveth and he can take it away. But we still have to bless the name of the Lord throughout any season of our life. So the very thing that we got right now can be taken. I've seen it happen to many people where they was on top of the mountain and they was hyped, they was picking on everybody else, and then a couple months later, everybody was so happy to bring them down because they were so arrogant in their high season. And with us, we got to stay humble, because we got to realize if we're in Christ, we won't fail. But if God gives us what we need and then we go away from him, it will be taken away. So you don't want to gain the whole world and lose your soul. You get what I'm saying? So we got to stay humble through the process, because that's also that's the type of spirit we should have as Christians, and have that humility. Never think yourself more than you should. Like it says in Galatians 6, you should not think yourself to be something when you are nothing. Like that's what it exactly says. So and even going on to verse 7, it says, whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. So if you sown into good ground, then you will reap what you have sown. But you cannot, when you reap it, you cannot go back and pick on everybody else or make everybody else feel bad, because you did put in that time, but it's not your place to tell people that you got something they don't. So you gotta stay humble in that process.
Yeah, and you took everything I was finna say for real, because that's the way I stay humble, is knowing that I'm not this great person. You feel me? Anything that's given to me is truly by God, and I'm not just saying that as a cliche, but it's serious, because if you think about it, and that's really my prayer a lot of the time, I always tell God, Lord, it don't matter how hard that I work, it won't happen unless you touch it. You know what I'm saying? So, just wanted to give an example. Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible, he basically became so big-headed, you know what I'm saying, that God had to humble him, and God ended up actually taking his mind. See, like something like that, you feel me? You can be the hardest working person, you can just be a go-getter, a hustler, but let's just say you fall and break your leg. Like, what can you do now? You just stuck to the bed or whatever, and God can be in the whole control of how fast that thing heals. He can make it to where it's so bad to where they got to amputate your leg. Like stuff like that. You feel me? It's really, it's really not our control to a certain extent of how successful we are. So we got to stay humble, man.
Exactly.
I was going to say like two things, but it says, where is it at? Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. That's James 4:10. So, in the story with Joseph, that's a perfect example of that. Like, he humbled himself. He didn't like betray God or talk about the Lord or complain. He just stayed humble and then sought the Lord. And the Bible told us that he was blessed. Like everything his hands was put to, like he was blessed. And he eventually became ruler, like over the entire Egypt. Basically, the king gave him all of that power, to run everything. So let's say we decide to go on our own strength, kind of like how you were talking about. Like you said, you go to the Lord for everything. It's from him. Like, Lord, give it. I need your help, and he'll sustain you. So that's kind of my point. Like, if you go before the Lord and you truly like realize that without him you can do nothing, then he's the one that'll exalt you, and then you don't have to worry about how to force success or make it work whatever you're doing, as long as you're working hard, you're not being lazy and stuff. As long as you're putting in the effort, he's the
Without works,
is dead. Yeah. So it's like put your hands to the plow, and sometimes it's like a miracle the way that he will do things. Like even like with your career, like him opening up doors, like filling out resumes and stuff. You can put out all these different things, but he's the one that's gonna open the door. And when he does it, you're like, oh, I'm good. Yeah, this is. You'll see like this was the Lord. So.
And my thing is this: like when defining like success and being humble, what makes you better than somebody else? You know what I'm saying? They might have more money than you, but if we're looking at it from a spiritual standpoint, they might have more money than you, but if they are on their way to hell, then what value do they have in life? And we gotta stop defining success with our earthly desires or what man says is successful. How much money you got, how many assets you got, how much people give you attention. Those are things that people say that's successful, but it may not always be.
How many followers you got?
How many followers you got, you know what I'm saying? But because someone's further in life than you doesn't mean that they're better than you. They may be more successful than you. Okay, they might be more successful than you. But never get to the point where if you are ahead of somebody else, like a lot, that you look at somebody else that's not ahead or trying their best. You're not better than them because it takes one or two things and your whole reality can switch. So never get to the point where you just think you on a high horse or whatever, because I look at myself like I know that God has great things for me to do. Don't think I'm not confident in myself or anything like that. But I look at myself just the same as anybody else, because you shouldn't ever get to the point where you just think that you're on a pedestal or people should be doing stuff for you, because that's not the way God intended for you. We are here to be servants. We are here to serve, number one. So we serve the people we're around, and we shouldn't have people just like, it's okay for people to serve you sometimes too, but at the same time, we should look to serve more than we look to be served. So,
and two things. Number one, we can't forget too that Satan can give you success in the world, because look at how he offered Jesus. I can give you these kingdoms. You feel me? So that shows us that he does have the ability to bless us on an earthly level. You know what I mean? And that would be enough to blind you and keep you pacified so that you're not seeking God and all that type of stuff. Another thing you mentioned, like Jacob, for example, that's what you mentioned, or was it Joseph? Joseph, right? And I mentioned this in the last episode that all these people, Abraham, Joseph, Noah, all these people, right? They didn't have it in their mind like, look, I'm gonna rule Egypt one day. They were literally just like being righteous, acknowledging God, living their normal life. And like you said in the verse, God came, saw that they were righteous, and exalted them. You feel me? So none of them had plans to do these things. Not saying that it's wrong to plan, but you know what I mean. If you're living that life, staying humble, staying low key, he will exalt you in front of man.
That's good.
I agree. You got to make sure you stay humble in the process, because guess what happened? God will humble you if you're not.
That's
not
true.
Because as we see in different stories of the Bible, when people wasn't humble, you see what God did. Like with Joseph, I preached a sermon about it. How he boasted before his brothers. His brothers was like, well, some of them wanted to kill him. So that's why y'all gotta watch who
when they were big humbled.
Yeah, like exactly. Yeah, so God will humble everybody. Like he'll make sure he humbles everybody, but you just make sure you're not being humbled too much. But his brothers wanted to kill him, so y'all gotta watch who you are arrogant around. Some people out here to kill, some people out here to steal from you, and then that's how you know it's from the devil. Because if this is your purpose, you got to keep that to yourself. Because people out here they ain't about your purpose. So you got to stay humble through that process, because as soon as they push you up the tree too much, my dad always said, if they push you up the tree too much, when you get to the top, listen for the chainsaw, because they ready to chop the tree down so they can knock on your name. So just stay humble through the process, and you don't have to worry about that.
I wanted to add something. Let me see. Okay, so I wrote this note down. It says, just because you can't have the same success as someone else doesn't mean he doesn't favor you or that your life isn't good. And that goes back to something one of y'all said earlier in the podcast. Like, we're all made differently. We all have our own gifts. You know what I mean? So like, what you do, I might not be able to do. What you do, I'm probably not gonna be able to do either. You know what I mean? And what I do, some of the things I do, y'all won't be able to do. But it's not. That doesn't mean that God doesn't favor any of us or He doesn't love us. He favors each of us. You know what I mean? And He gives all of His gifts like without repentance. And we all have gifts. You know what I mean? So I think it's like when you start to focus more so on what the Lord has given you to do, and you grow and it's you versus you, then you get better and better. You look back, you be like, wait, I just lost 25 pounds within this certain amount of time. Okay, wait, I'm stronger. Okay, wait, I know how to make connections. My business is doing better. This is better. My relationships are better. I'm happier as a person than going on social media and being like, oh, this person just got, they just lost 10 pounds, or this person just got $1,000. Like, when you start to compare and look at other people's lives and their gifts, all your stuff is like rotten. Like, you're not looking at your fruits growing. You're not looking at what the Lord has done for you. So when you start to focus on yourself and the fact that He has blessed you and favored you, and you just keep grinding it out, like y'all said, He will exalt, He'll exalt us.
Yeah, and before we move on to the next question, I'd like to add to that. He adds certain success at a certain season when He knows you need it. And He adds different things. Like, even within the Bible, Moses, he didn't like to speak at all. He had like a problem with speaking, but he still did it. And I bet by the time he really got into it, he was one of the best speakers you could hear when it comes down along. And I would like to say that even in my personal life and stuff. It's stuff where I was bad at, but then at the right time, God, it like changed the revelation of how I did things. And like He added that blessing. And it's like, man, I wish I would have had this a couple years ago, but now I'm better at this because God knew I needed it at this time. Like, even with Darren, like, I just heard him speak yesterday. He did an excellent job.
I used to be trembling just to stand up here and say something, man.
Yeah, he did an excellent job yesterday. So, like, I'm telling you, you see the growth and everything. God adds it at a certain time because He'll know, okay, he may not be needing to say anything at this season, but at this season I need for him to step up a little bit. And yeah, I think that's another part of success. Yeah. You can't frame your success or time your success according to somebody else's success, because God knows when you need it. Because let's say that somebody else is speaking right now, and they're a good speaker, but then they go through something and they lose their voice, and then they kind of fall out of faith or whatever. Then they can use the person that didn't speak and come speak back to them. So your timing may not have been at their timing, but you need to come back later and speak to that same person. You know what I'm saying? And God works like that.
He does. It's like your gift might not be to speak loudly. It might be to speak quietly to somebody. Or like, anyway.
And another thing is, like, imagine if we could speak in front of people, let's just say at 16 years old. You might become big-headed, you know what I'm saying? So that's another thing. He'll, as far as being humble too, God knows us better than we do, so there's certain things He won't give us because He know if I give this to Him right now, He's going to leave me and He's going to get big-headed and He's going to end up losing it all. So I'd rather have Him suffer a while, in His mind suffer until the time is right. Then I'll give it to Him when I feel He's ready,
Exactly. And let's move on to our last question. It says, how can we ensure that our pursuit of success glorifies God and serves others, rather than becoming solely self-focused?
You said our pursuit of success?
How can we make sure that our success basically glorifies God and serves others, and not just basically serving ourselves or making our gifts self-centered?
Okay. So I have a quote like in my room on the wall. It says, the most pressing question that you should ask yourself is, what are you doing for others? And I just look at it sometimes and I'm like, okay, what have I done for somebody recently, and that it's just a constant reminder for me to love on somebody. It could be a stranger, it could be somebody from the church, be somebody in my household. It could be as simple as, you and your sister, you look out for each other. So it could be as simple as you buying something for her, or her getting you something, and that's showing an act of love. It doesn't always have to be like a grand thing or some, long-winded, thing. You just be like something simple. So
Yeah, I agree. And I'm like, that's one thing that I think I can do better at, and I think people in general can, is when it comes down to success, you can't always say I. When you're looking into the future as far as what you're trying to do in whatever you're doing, whatever your aspirations, you got to be like, how will this bless the people around me? How will this impact my family, my friends? How can this bless someone? Because I promise you, well, on that movie we just watched, The Forge, when he opened up that business, he wanted to be successful personally, but when you open up a business, you got to understand you're opening up jobs for a lot of people. And he had a factory, so that was a lot of jobs, and through that he was impacting them spiritually. So with whatever we do, even if we own like a little shop or whatever, if we might go out and sell CDs, you've seen them people outside of the Walmarts or whatever, and they're selling the CDs. They're like, and a lot of them that I've seen, they'll be outside the KNG, and they're Christian tracks and stuff like that. Like they're like Christian artists trying to get out there. And even with that, you have to make sure their ministry is really, it glorifies God and it's not just personal, even though they're the only one on the track. But through that, they're speaking life into others. And with everything that we got to do, we got to make sure that it's not just going to be a solo thing. Because even though we get to the gates, or we're born on this earth all by ourselves, we die all by ourselves. But it's that time that we are living, and what we're doing for others, what we're serving others, is what's going to last. And that's what we're going to have to answer for. So.
Okay. So can we like give an example for those who are listening of how they can minister to somebody, in their life? So like a lot of us work jobs. Some of us are in high school, college, Some of you may be at home a lot of the time. But what can they do? What's a way they can minister or bless somebody else?
The way you can minister to someone most effective is not being super deep, not doing all this type of stuff, is just being a good person, being a person that's a man or woman of your word. Someone, if you go to work, you're there on time. If you are going to church with your kids and you're being a good person at church with your kids, and then you go home and you're the same person at home, that's how you can minister to someone. If you are a person where with your friends you're telling them about Christ, and then also when you have that girls or boys night out, you're still upholding your faith and your values, that's how you can minister to them. It's not always, oh, let's turn to the book of Galatians, let's do all this. No, you're not going to minister to people always in that manner. Some people you can, but all people, it's not going to work like that. The best form of ministry is being an example in your life. And it's not being self-righteous or being super deep, because, I wouldn't say that any of us are trying to be like super deep. But at the same time, we're just trying to do what it takes to live a good life to get to heaven. We're not trying to condemn the world. We didn't like Jesus. He did not come to condemn the world. So we're not coming to condemn the world, but we are coming to have a standard, and we go off of the scripture. So in life, the best way to minister to people is just be authentically who you are, and be a good steward at work, be a good person on your job, in the whole 9 yards. And that's how you can minister, because when they see that you're a good person, they'll wonder, they want to be like you. People start to admire you for your spirit. So yeah.
Also tell people no. Sometimes, no, seriously, because sometimes people will like, it can be something simple as, hey man, you want to go to this place with me? No, I'm good. I don't do that. And then they be like, oh, most Christians, they straddle the fence, but he's serious. You know what I'm saying? They respect that, whether y'all know it or not. Like, sinners respect a true Christian. When we trying to fit in with them, believe it or not, they don't respect us. You know what I'm saying? So telling people no, it'll open up their eyes to be more curious. You feel me? So that's my input on it. And like you said, you said what I was going to say, you don't got to bust open the Bible and all that. It can be something simple. You know what I mean?
And then I want to encourage people too, though. Like, if you do feel like there's a way that you can serve somebody and talk about Jesus, or if there is a way you can bless them in a certain way, like feed the homeless or whatever's on your heart, if you can do it and there's a space to do it, you should do it. Go ahead and do it. That's not a bad thing. My mom, she'll nudge me. I'm like, Mom, you think this is a good idea? She'll be like, that's not the enemy telling you to go and do that. That's the Lord, So if you have those desires to even, let's say, if you can, this is up to your discretion. If you can, and you see a friend at work or a coworker, and they seem like they're crying or they're having a hard time, they're always sad, ask them how they're doing. And then if they seem open to, or you feel led to, see if they need prayer and pray with them. I'm not saying like make it a big thing, anoint their head and all of that. Just be like,
you be in the teacher's in the gospel.
Yeah, like you don't have to do that, but yeah, I just want to say that.
That's really good, and I think this was really good episode for us, because these are the good part of success. A lot of people they measure success differently on earthly measures, but these are good conversations to have, and y'all should have that conversation in your homes. If you're a parent, have it with your children. Be like, hey, what do you want to do for a living? It's great that you want to be a football player. It's great that you want to own your own business, be a CEO. Those things, you should do it. It's encouraged. But how will this bless people spiritually? So have those conversations in your house with your friends when you're out talking. Y'all trying to do better in Christ. You can be like, okay, man, I'm trying to be an artist. I'm trying to do these things. I have all these big aspirations. But how will they affect the people around you and not just be selfish so you can get cars and all these type of things that after you get a car, I don't know, about a couple months later you want another one or whatever it might be. But you need to count your success on what's going to last forever and what's going to impact people around you and what's going to impact people spiritually. So thank y'all for tuning in to Impact Podcast for another week. You can follow me on Instagram at OneChristianCandy. Y'all want to say your ads? So you want me to give them?
You can give mine.
Yeah.
Okay, you can follow her on Instagram at _Mani_Mani. Follow him on YouTube at Naraya TV or on Instagram at Naraya.tv. Naraya.tv on Instagram and Naraya TV just straight up on YouTube. And then you can follow me at OneChristianCandy on Instagram. And follow Impact Podcast Show on Instagram. Follow Impact Podcast Show, Rockstone Church, on all of our platforms. It's just Rockstone Church. Make sure you like, tag, subscribe, share with that group chat, share with that friend, share with your mama, your children, whoever it might be. Just make sure you share this podcast because it's going to impact them and have those conversations about being successful, because I hope everybody that watches this show has success and gets that dream that you've been praying for and that you've been dreaming about. So thank y'all for tuning in. Come see us next week. We're going to get out of here.